For months, the Bowen family lived with something they could never fully explain inside their home at 93 Lawrence Street, in the quiet town of Pepperell, Massachusetts. In the United States, it did not begin violently. It did not arrive with chaos or urgency. It began quietly, almost politely, the kind of presence that seems easy to dismiss at first. Late at night, when the house grew still and the lights were off, there would be movement behind the walls. A faint shuffle, a slow scrape, sometimes nothing more than the subtle sense that something had shifted where it should not have. At first, the family barely reacted. Old houses make noise. Everyone knows that. Pipes contract. Wood expands. Walls settle as temperatures change. These explanations were familiar, rational, and reassuring. They did not challenge reality. They did not demand fear, so the Bowens accepted them. Their house itself gave them no reason to feel unsafe. It was not isolated or abandoned. It sat on a calm residential street in a small New England town, surrounded by other homes, other families, and routines that looked exactly like theirs. Children played outside. Neighbors waved in passing. Porch lights turned on at dusk and off at night with comforting predictability. Everything about the neighborhood suggested normalcy. The house had been built decades earlier and showed its age in harmless ways. Floors creaked softly. Paint had faded. The structure felt lived in, not threatening. There was no known history of crime associated with the property. No warnings passed between neighbors. No reason, at least on record, to suspect danger, which made the sounds easier to ignore. They came mostly at night. Not every night. Not on a schedule. Just often enough to become familiar. When the television was off. When conversations had ended. When the house slipped into silence. Sometimes the sounds resembled footsteps, slow and cautious. Other times it felt like something shifting its weight, then stopping suddenly, as if aware it might be heard. They were never loud, never clear enough to confront directly, always ambiguous. Weeks passed. Then months. The noises remained, but so did daily life. Mornings came. Work, school, errands, dinners. The house functioned exactly as it always had. Nothing was broken. Nothing appeared disturbed. Nothing overtly wrong demanded attention, and slowly, without anyone consciously deciding it, the sounds stopped being a mystery and started becoming background noise. Humans are remarkably good at adapting to discomfort, especially when confronting it would be more unsettling than accepting it. The Bowens adapted. They learned which nights were quieter, which rooms felt easier to sleep in. They stopped listening so closely. They stopped questioning. They stopped wondering. The sounds became part of the house, like creaking stairs or a ticking clock. Something you notice once, then stop hearing altogether. Years passed this way. Life continued inside those walls. Birthdays were celebrated. Holidays came and went. Arguments flared and cooled. Relationships shifted. Children grew older. Adults aged, and always, somewhere behind the walls, the sound remained. Sometimes it disappeared for weeks at a time. When it did, relief followed quietly. A sense that maybe it really had been nothing. Maybe imagination had turned harmless noise into something more. Maybe time had exaggerated a normal inconvenience. But when the noises returned, they returned unchanged, as if they had simply been waiting, over time. Small irregularities began to surface. Food occasionally went missing. Not entire meals. Not enough to cause alarm. Just small portions that could easily be explained away. A snack someone forgot they ate. A container that had not been as full as remembered. Objects were not always where they were supposed to be. Keys left on the counter appeared on the table. A door someone was certain they had closed now sat slightly open. Each incident was insignificant on its own. Together, they formed a pattern no one wanted to acknowledge, because acknowledging that pattern would require asking a question no one was ready to answer. What if this is not normal? Instead, the family questioned themselves. Memory is unreliable. Stress distorts perception. People misremember things every day. Doubt became the shield that kept fear at bay. Without ever discussing it openly, the Bowens began to change the way they lived. Certain rooms were avoided late at night. Doors were checked twice before bed. Lights stayed on longer than before. Sleep became lighter, more alert, even if no one admitted why. No one talked about it. Talking would mean naming the fear. And once fear has a name, it demands attention. Nearly a year after the noises began, in December of 1986, everything changed. The family returned home one evening to find the house. Different lights were on in rooms they had not entered. Radios played loudly. A television flickered without explanation. The house felt occupied in a way that was impossible to ignore. Frank Bowen, the father, assumed someone had broken in. Yet there were no signs of forced entry. No broken locks. No shattered windows. Only the overwhelming sense that something was wrong. Then a voice came from a closet. When Frank opened it, he found himself face to face with a teenage boy holding a hatchet and a steel wrench. His hair stood stiff and wild. His face was smeared with ketchup and mayonnaise, arranged in a grotesque mask. His name was Daniel J. LaPlante, 16 years old at the time. Daniel had not broken into the house that night. He had been there before. He had been there many times. He had been living inside the house, hidden within small crawl spaces and gaps behind the walls. Areas most homeowners never realize exist. Daniel had entered the Bowen home while the family was away. He hid when they returned. He moved only when silence made it safe. The girls, Tina and Karen Bowen, had tried to tell their father about the noises before. Like many parents, Frank assumed imagination or stress, but standing face to face with a stranger holding weapons erased any doubt in the chaos that followed. Frank pushed his daughters into a bedroom and barricaded the door. Tina, terrified but thinking clearly, jumped from a second-story window and ran to a neighbor's house to call the police. When officers arrived, Daniel had vanished. Despite a thorough search, police found no trace of him inside the home. A hatchet and wrench belonging to the family were discovered near the back porch, suggesting his escape route. Later investigation revealed how Daniel had used hidden spaces within the structure of the house to come and go unnoticed. The walls themselves had sheltered him. The Bowen family was advised to leave the home. They never returned. Daniel LaPlante was later arrested and went on to commit additional crimes. But for the Bowens, the damage had already been done. The house on Lawrence Street was eventually sold. The walls were repaired. Life moved forward, but memory did not, because sometimes the most terrifying things are not imagined. They are not supernatural. They are not monsters created by fear. They are real, quiet, patient, and hiding where you never thought to look.